And I'm one to kind of look at what everyone else is doing and do something else. I like the idea of not having any competition, which is why when I was a teenager, I would only go to parties that there were no other guys at.
He did a lot of sleepovers and pigtails.
Crashed a lot of slumber parties and, no. But, wow, let's not get into my juvenile record.
You're listening to the Goblin Goldcast with Dex and Mac. I got mouths to feed, so let's get this thing started. Time is money, friend.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, Azeroth. You're listening to the Goblin Goldcast, your guide to making gold in World of Warcraft. This is episode 40. I'm your host, Dex, coming to you from Napa, California. With me on Skype is a man who believes that some mistakes are just too much fun to only make once, my co-host Mac from Anchorage, Alaska. How you doing, Mac?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. It looks like we're making the same mistake again and doing the podcast. It is a lot of
yourself.
fun.
It's completely intentional on my part.
Hey, 40 whole episodes. I'm having fun.
I know, and like 6 of them are good. It's awesome. It's let's see. There was the interview with Ro. There was the interview with KZ. There's the there were a few of them where we didn't talk as much. Oh boy, yeah. Speaking of the KZ interview, have to say it's things have been taken off. We've really had a lot of downloads of that episode, and ever since we did the interview with Realm Maintenance not too long ago, things have really been picking up quite a bit, and we've
got a real show.
Hey, come on, we always had a real show. It's just nobody knew about it.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe if we're really, really lucky, iTunes will start properly indexing us. That would be awesome. Anyway, but I digress. How was your week?
Week was fine. I'm still coming home sore from work every day. That new job, working physically outside versus sitting behind the computer all day, which I may somewhat regret. But yeah, I'm getting a little more exercise now.
There you go.
Yeah, I've actually lost about 2 inches around my waist in the 3 weeks I've been working there. Anyways, having fun. I got my flying in Legion. Yay.
Yay.
So now all my lower level alts are
taxi.
Yeah, taxi. Now I've got to go back and get my flying and trainer.
I'm gonna call you Uber from now on, because that's what you're gonna be to me. I'm gonna call for an Uber.
Yeah.
I need a ride.
It works for me. We could do that, but you'd have to get on and play a little more while I'm on for that.
Yeah, that's true. My play time has been severely limited here lately. I've only been able to log on long enough to do some emissary quests once in a while, and that's been about it. So
actually, my playtime has been more limited as well.
Yeah.
I get home from work and I get on and start playing, and about 2 hours after that, I start to fall asleep exhausted.
You can't stay up until the middle of the night if you got to be at work.
I got to get up for work at 5 in the morning. That's when I used to go to bed.
I know. It just turned the whole thing up on its head. So
I am liking the 3-day weekends, though.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of which, before we get too far in, I do want to mention we've alluded to this in the past, but coming up in here in just a few days, Mac and I are both going to be going to Vegas. He's going to be flying out early morning on Wednesday, and I will be getting in the car and driving. The wives are going as well.
There we go. And because what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, we won't be doing a podcast that week.
Well, actually, because of the fact that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, we won't be going alone. Our wives are going to be going for the ride. So there's no way that they were going to put up with us being in Vegas without them being there, I think.
Well, yeah. Well, they know us, yeah.
Well.
We can't allow them to go out and have fun by themselves.
I've heard there's alcohol in Vegas. I'm not positive if that's just a rumor, but we're gonna sure see if we can.
There we go.
Seek it out. And
another reason not to podcast. It doesn't need editing.
I hear there's lots of gold to be made out there too.
There we go. Yeah, from the casino.
I've got a plan. I'm going to go camp the blackjack table. No. You know what I'm worried about? I'm worried that you're going to wilt because
my word.
You've been suffering through the tremendously hot 50-degree weather here lately.
It's 50 tonight. I'm in my office with my fan blowing on me.
I think it's going to be a little warmer than that in Vegas for the time that we're there.
That reminds me of when I flew down to Sacramento to visit you down in California.
Yeah.
I remember leaving Anchorage. It was pretty warm in Anchorage, about 76 degrees, and I remember the pilot landing in Sacramento, and I thought he said it was 86.
And he didn't.
And he did not say 86. And I didn't realize that till we opened the door to the airport and to go outside.
Yeah.
That was 106.
It was the hottest day of the year, and I remember Buddy and I we worked it all out knowing that you were going to be dying in the heat. I remember all the cracks we were making about, well, at least you showed up on a nice day because it's been really warm until today. Today's a nice, and you're thinking, hell with that, I'm never coming back to California again. But
and then they stuffed me in the back seat. And the air conditioning doesn't really blow back there, so you've got the Alaskan back there at 106-degree temperature trying to, stick his head up between the seats trying to get a little breath of cool air.
Well, we had a chance to hit you with a double whammy on that because we know how nervous you get with California traffic being from the boonies. So we were able to say, well, we don't have air conditioning, but we can roll down the windows and drive faster. Will that help you out? And so...
So I'll be dying.
That's what friends are for. But yeah, you'll be dying. But inside the casinos, it'll be probably about a chilly 65 degrees, maybe.
Oh, there we go. Chilly, yeah. I'll have wearing shorts and short sleeve T-shirt. There we go.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so because we're going to be in Vegas, though, unfortunately, there will be no show next week. And if we were going to do a show, we'd have to do it from Vegas. There'd be alcohol involved, and I'm not so sure if it would be our worst show or our best show. It would be a definite roll of the dice, no pun intended. So
we don't want to set that precedent.
We don't. So no show next week, but we will have one when we get back. As soon as when we get back, we'll put something together. Maybe an interview show. Still working on possibility of that. There are a couple of possible interview targets that may not be able to come up with good enough excuses to get out of it. So if that's the case, we may be bringing you an interview.
It's a 50-50 chance.
Or maybe not. It could be an interview. Could be not an interview, but
see, I'm trying to get the odds thing in because we're going Vegas. So
yeah, there you go. Get that odds. Yeah, there you go.
What are the odds Mac's going to win at the gaming tables? Well, we don't think we can go that low percentage.
I don't think that'll even register. But but anyway, I'm sure that there will be new adventures to talk about when we get back, and you guys won't have to hear all the old stories from years and years ago. We'll have new boring stories to tell everybody about.
There we go.
So anyway, I believe also this week you had some experiences in game dealing with a guildie or two where you actually came up with our topic this week.
Well, it's happened. I've had it happen both I see it in trade chat, and I've had it happen in a couple of the guilds I'm in, where I've got new guild members or start asking, how do you make gold? I'm not high enough level. I can't make enough gold. I've only got like 2,000 gold, and I'm sitting there thinking, how can you not make gold? So I'll say a couple things in guild chat or trade chat, and then they'll start talking to me privately and whispering me, and I'll go back and forth. And there's, like this morning, I brought a guildie around and said, you can do raids. You can do old school raid. Do some old content. Because he was worried about his gear score. And I said, well, go do an old raid. He goes, I don't have a gear score to be able to do an old raid. I said, you don't need the gear score to do a raid from 2 or 3 expansions ago.
Not if you've got a 110. Yeah.
No, and he did. It's like and I brought on my mage, which was real undergeared.
Yeah.
Because I don't play him that often. But I just brought him around to be able to teleport him around to show some of the old world content. Just show him some of the dungeons you can do from Cataclysm and from Wrath of the Lich King.
Right.
That you can just buzz through. And I was showing him with a quickness. You may only be able to do it once a week, but if you can roll out of there with 1,000 gold just vendoring all the items and do it in like 5 or 10 minutes.
Right. And if I can just interject real quick, when you're doing these older raids and you're 110, you have to understand that the power difference is so massive between what level you are now and what was current at the time. You can go in there and you can do it Mac in the evening watching TV style, which is completely naked. Yeah. And you can just go through and you can
with cheese puffs.
Just put your boxers on and go through and wipe it out, because you really don't need good gear to do any of that, or really even any gear at all in some cases. It's not like the old days where you needed to have decent gear. Levels make up for that, more than make up for that, actually. But anyway. So you brought them through and showed them a few different ways to do this. Some of our listeners may not have heard the interview that we did with Ro on Realm Maintenance recently. If you haven't heard that, definitely go back and take a look. Ro's a great guy, puts together a great show, and he made us sound good. So there's that. But if you listen to that, Ro was actually at one point, he asked me something, and I don't remember what it was specifically. You might be able to remember, but something to the effect of how I make money in current content, some aspect of current content.
He asked both of us that, and we have a little different. I've been this expansion. I've been keeping up with most of the newer content. You've been doing what you always do, which is make gold with older content. Right.
And when I mentioned to him, I think he might have been a little bit surprised that my focus is always tends to be a couple expansions behind. And one of the things about that, and I know I've said this before, but I think it bears repeating, that older content where people aren't doing it anymore, the crowds aren't doing it. You're going to be able to do certain things without the competition that you would on newer content. You'll actually be overpowered to be able to handle it. So you don't have to worry about gear getting in the way of being able to achieve something. And for me, the opportunities are just there. A lot of the opportunities are there, and I'm one to kind of look at what everyone else is doing and do something else. I like the idea of not having any competition, which is why when I was a teenager, I would only go to parties that there were no other guys at.
He did a lot of sleepovers and pigtails.
Crashed a lot of slumber parties, and no. But wow, let's not get into my juvenile record. At any rate, I would always look for ways to make gold that everyone else wasn't doing, and sometimes, on the surface, it may seem like, well, it's not quite as profitable as the most current thing that's in super high demand. But there is a certain amount of balance between supply and demand that you have to always keep in mind. The thing that is in the most demand is typically going to be also in the most supply. So there's a balance that's struck there on that. You can have something that has a fraction of the demand and no supply, and that's where you should be. That's where the opportunity lies. And, you can try to, it's just like you can try to be, all things to all people, or you can specialize in one niche area and make your money. It's the same sort of thing. I like to focus somewhere that isn't receiving any focus from anybody else, or not very much from anyone else. And that's, to me, that's the opportunity. That's where it lies.
Right. It's like engineering. The Mechano Hog and the those old choppers from back in Pandaria. Those are not before Pandaria. What expansion?
I think wasn't that Wrath of the Lich King when they came out, or was it before that?
Yeah, it was the old Dalaran was there. So, anyways, that
Wrath of the Lich King. Yeah,
Wrath Lich King. So back in Wrath, those things, there were a lot of people making them. Right now, there's not that many. Now the mats are kind of expensive still,
right?
But I mean, they're going for $100K or more in the auction house, and there aren't as many people that have taken the time to grind that experience, because there is an experience or a reputation grind to be able to get those the schematics to make those things, and those are going for some real decent gold right now.
Yeah. And
so that's just one of the old school items that you can make lots of gold with.
Right. And before we get too deep into this, I did want to say, whenever you're looking at wanting to make some gold, and you're trying to figure out where you're going to jump in and what your focus is going to be, and all of that, to me, the very first thing you need to do is set your goals. You have to know what you're going after. There's a big difference between, I just need enough for a token, and I want to be able to regularly bring in $1 million a month, or whatever the amount is. So once you set your goals, then you can go about achieving those goals. And if you don't set the goals, you can't really expect to meet a certain level of production without having that in sight. In my opinion,
I need enough gold to make Mrs. Mac happy every month.
Yeah, there you go. But then beyond that, once you've done that, I highly recommend keeping good records. What I did, I kept meticulous records, and I don't so much anymore. I've kind of backed off on that for a little bit. But during Warlords, I was notorious for keeping daily records. Every single day, I had my totals for how much gold I made, not just an overall, but on a per character basis, and I had it broken down into the different things that I was doing, so I could see what was being profitable for me and what wasn't really keeping up. And that was the only way that I knew for sure which things I should drop when a new gold making opportunity came up. Because if I'm making, let's just throw some numbers out there. Let's say that I'm on average making 50K a day. That's what I'm making right now. And I'm spending 2 hours a day to make that 50K a day. Okay. And I find a new way to make gold. It's a temporary way, maybe, that just blows everything else away. And I have to start doing that. But I didn't magically get extra time. I still only have 2 hours a day, say, to put into gold making. I have to know what thing I'm doing right now that I can afford to drop to do the new thing. If the new thing takes an hour a day, I have to drop half the stuff that I'm already doing if I haven't magically gained extra time to work with. So if you keep really good records, you know which things that you're doing are expendable, and that you can at least put on hold until this new opportunity dries up, or what have you.
A lot of competition comes up and starts taking their piece of the pie as well.
Right. But record keeping is your way to know for sure that you're making the right decisions on that. And so I just wanted to start by saying that, that's the first thing. That's the first thing there. But once you've got that set, we can look at some of these old school ways to make gold. We can start talking about that now. I think that there are quite a lot of options, actually, to that, like you and I were discussing before.
And we're not going to go into all of them tonight, because we would just kind of gloss over the top and not be able to expound upon them.
Right.
And we need stuff for future shows, so we don't run out of ideas.
Well, one of the things that I'd like to talk about, and I'd mentioned this to you during show prep, but the Jewelcraft Panthers, those are something that were from Mists of Pandaria. And so we're talking about 2 expansions ago. And as you can imagine, something 2 expansions ago you don't have as many people farming things to create these. And with the Panthers, you can run into trouble when you're making the Panthers and trying to sell them, because they are a very popular thing to be duped. And one of the ways that you can tell if they're duped, if you see a regular Panther for under 20K, you can pretty much guarantee that it's duped, because you've got a vendor bought item that's 20K all by itself.
Yeah, that Orb of Mastery.
Right.
Or Mystery. Orb of Mystery goes for 20K.
Yeah, Orb of Mastery.
Yeah, Mystery.
I believe it's Orb of Mastery.
The Orb.
Huh?
The Orb.
The Orb, yeah. And then with the Onyx Panther, you have to take all 4 of the other Panthers and combine them together. So, at that point, you're 80K in vendor mats right there, and that's not counting anything else that you need for that. Now, there's an added impact that these duped Panthers cause a problem with, and that's that the legitimate ones, the prices are dropped way down to compete, because whether you have a legitimate one or you have a duped one, the person buying them, they're not going to see the difference, and you're going to have to compete with these duped ones on the market, or you're going to have to wait. But the people that are making these legitimately still need the mats to create them, and that's what we wanted to talk about a little bit this evening to start out with. And that's that you've got these the colored gems. You've got 4 different colors of the Panthers. You got a green one, you got a yellow one, you got a red one, and what did I forget?
Blue one.
Blue one, yeah. And you got the blue one, and there's the corresponding rare gems from Pandaria that you need.
Wild Jade, the Sun's Radiance. Let's see, you've got the Primordial Ruby and the River's Heart.
Right. And you need 20. Is it 20 of these that you need, I believe?
20 of them you need.
20 of them. Okay. And there are only a couple of ways that you can get these. Now, we've discussed before about how ghost iron can be almost non-existent in the auction house a lot of the time, and when it is there, the price is really high for something that you can just go to Jade Forest and fly around for a little bit and get a ton of. By the way, if you want to farm your own.
There's a lot of it now because of the
There's been an influx.
The Sky Golems. Yeah.
Yeah, there has been an influx of people putting it on the market, and again, supply and demand, more competition. But there is a way to get these rare gems other than just getting lucky when you're prospecting. You prospect 5 of the ghost iron, and then you'll get common gems, or you'll sometimes get one of the rare gems, but very, very uncommonly will you get the rare gems. And but there is a way to transmute a transmute that is not that's actually not it doesn't have a daily cooldown on. To transmute the common gems into the corresponding rare gem of the same color. And so you need the common gem, and then you need one of the golden lotuses, right? So
right,
and that's all you need for that. Well, the golden lotus, easiest way to get that is there's a trader. There's a trader in Pandaria over at the shrine, and this trader will trade you 1 Spirit of Harmony for 2 of the
Golden Lotus. Yeah.
Of the Golden Lotus. And so you want to look at how much your Spirit of Harmony, your Motes of Harmony, how much they're going for in the auction house, because in a lot of cases you can just buy up the spirits and the Motes of Harmony out of the auction house, use it to make these gems, put the gems right back on the auction house, and just churn that out. And the only problem is a lot of times you're not going to find very many of the Motes and the Spirits of Harmony on the auction house. They can be rare to find.
And again, it depends on your server.
Yeah, no, it's definitely gonna be different from realm to realm as far as that goes. But also, you can go out and mass slaughter really easy to kill mobs in Pandaria to get your moats and your spirits of harmony, or you can find somebody that's willing to farm them for you. It's always good when you can find farmers that are willing to go out there and just COD, stuff to you, and that's been the secret for making a lot of gold for me is having people working for me and sending the stuff to me for it's a constant income for them and it's a constant supply for me. It's win-win. But yeah, once you've got that, and if you put them in stacks of 20, especially as Mac, you pointed out in show prep, stacks of 20 are going to, you've got the perfect stack size. You can move them, and in a lot of cases though, it doesn't really matter what your stack size is, because as we've noticed, a lot of times there aren't any at all.
Right now on Dalaran, for example, the Wild Jade, there aren't many people with the Wild Jade, and the ones that are, single pieces of Wild Jade are going for 589 gold each. Mm-hmm. Some of the other gems are down to the 389 each. So I mean, if you're just doing, you don't even have to make the Panthers. All you're doing is supplying the gems for the Panthers, because they're a rarer gem. You can make some really, really decent gold doing that.
Right, and also keep in mind that you don't care what the Panthers are going for. You only care what the gems are going for. And that's the jewel crafter that's making the Panthers. That's their problem as far as that goes. You're going to, you just put them up for the price where they're gonna move. In a lot of cases, somebody might not need 20. Maybe you put a few singles up there as well, because maybe there's going to be that jewel crafter out there that has 19. They need one more, and they're willing to way overpay for that. That's awesome. That's your dream scenario, because they're going to maybe pay a price that they would never pay if they had to buy all 20 of them for that, but they can't
Correct.
Make the Panther without that last one. So, yeah, okay, stacks of 20, that's great. You should definitely look into doing that, especially if there aren't any others on the market. But it's also nice to maybe have a few singles, maybe a couple singles, maybe 5 in a stack. Mix up the stacks a little bit and have some options, because you never know when you're going to have that perfect stack size that somebody happens to need. And you can get away with charging a lot more if you have the perfect stack size, as we've discussed before. Lowest price comes secondary to having just exactly the amount of something that somebody needs.
Another what is it? The Kyperium, is that the rare ore over there in Pandaria? That's another one that sells for a good amount of gold. You get that over in the Mantid area a lot of the times.
Yeah, you can find that. Usually, there's a lot of mobs surrounding where these are. I used to farm that a bit.
They use that for making the depleted Kyperium rocket, which those sell for about 100K. Again, you've got to buy those orbs.
Yeah. So
there isn't as much profit in that as some of the other things. But again, mine sold within less than 24 hours.
Yeah.
So and that's at over 100K. So there's still some really good gold to be made for that.
Yeah. Make your stack sizes right, and you should be in good shape on that. And the concentration of mobs that are there where you find this ore is no longer a problem. If you're 110, you're just dropping down in there and just whacking everything once, basically, that gets in your way.
Belch at them loudly, and
you're not gonna really be in any danger there. I do want to mention that the same sort of thing is like what we talked about with the Sky Golems before. There was a scenario where when Legion first launched, one of the early ways to make a ton of gold was with Starlight Rows. Now, there was no flying at the time. Flying now is going to really change all of your materials.
The dynamics. The dynamics of gathering.
All of that is going to really change. And flying, as more and more people get flying, also Sky Golems are going to go down in price as well. Be ready for that. That's going to happen because people aren't going to need them for farming Starlight Rows anymore.
Right. They've gone from when the expansion first came live and they were selling for 175 to 150,000. They've dropped down to 67 to 65,000. Per Sky Golem, and just before the expansion went live, they were going for about 49K.
Yeah. So I was selling several a month for 45K before all of that, and I was happy as hell to do it.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, they definitely jumped up there. But what happened with the Starlight Rows, when you had Starlight Rows, it was over 200 gold a flower in the beginning, and I sold plenty at that price. Sky Golems, because you didn't have to dismount to pick the flowers, everybody wanted those, and so it caused the price to skyrocket. Well, people said, "Oh, wait, at the time, Mac and I, we were making Sky Golems to supply the people that were getting the Starlight Rows," and then what happened is, everybody bandwagons and everybody goes to the Sky Golems. And remember, wherever someone else is, you want to be somewhere else. So be the next one down the chain that's supplying, and you'll stay ahead of this curve. And so then an adjustment was made, and then it was, okay, well, what do you need for Sky Golems? You need Ghost Iron, and people in the right stack for the right stack amounts were paying way too much for Ghost Iron, especially if your stack size was right. So that was the logical place to go there. So you see, it kind of went full circle from raw material to crafted item back to raw material. We actually talked before the show. We were kind of laughing about it was kind of the show before the show.
It's kind of like the Sutter's Mill, during the gold rush.
Right.
The guys that made the money, or a lot of money during the gold rush, weren't the guys out there mining. It was the guys out there selling the dry goods. Levi Strauss made a ton of money.
Yeah.
During the gold rush, and he wasn't doing gold; he was providing for the gold miners.
Right. Yeah. So the people that were making picks and shovels, the people that were making food for the miners and giving them a place to sleep for the night, they were making a ton. There was no comparison between the amount of money that was made off of gold that was brought out of California and the money that was made out of supplying and taking care of the people that were trying to get the gold.
Or overcharging for supplies.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, they were charging like $7 for a pick or a shovel back in the day when $7 was a lot of frickin' money. Things like that. And companies were just that are still around today were born out of nowhere through all of that. I mean, a whole railroad crossing the entire country sprung up as a result of that. So just like in the real world, inside World of Warcraft, you have to look at the supply and demand. You have to look at what everybody is doing. And if everybody in the world is rushing to a particular gold rush, then, maybe you need to be Mr. Levi, maybe
to find some way to help supply or take care of the people that are out there doing that, the next big thing.
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunity there. There was a previous game that Mac and I used to play, EverQuest, that we've mentioned a few times. And there would be new things that would pop up in that game that required you to have a certain class at a certain level. And this was a game that took a lot longer to level character up in than World of Warcraft. A ton more time to level up. A lot more, okay?
And if you died, you weren't doing repairs, you were losing experience.
You were losing experience, yeah. And so a new opportunity would pop up to make in-game currency in that game. And the thing to remember about that game is when opportunities would pop up, it would go from being an awesome opportunity that was going to make you a ton of in-game currency to nothing at all in a matter of days.
That was the next big nerf.
Oh yeah, the game creators would nerf into the ground anything that you were able to make a lot of in-game currency with, it would go away immediately. As soon as people found out about it, it was gone.
They had a fishing thing that came out during an expansion that you made.
I made a ton, and then it was gone.
And they nerfed it. It was like a week and a half later.
They nerfed it before most people were able to take advantage of it. And so what I learned from that was when something like that would pop up. Now, usually I would have a character of every class at the max level, but I also specialized in characters that could power level other characters very quickly. And I was actually able to make a lot of in-game currency by power leveling people. So I was enabling people to be able to make their in-game currency doing the thing they needed the levels for. And the beauty of it is, I would power level them. I would collect my money for power leveling them. Some of them, by the time they were power leveled up, it was too late. I provided the service that I needed to provide, but see, me getting paid was not dependent on what they were able to do once they got there. It's no different than if I sell a Sky Golem for 6 figures, and then then all of a sudden flying is opened up, and nobody needs Sky Golems, and Sky Golems are crashing down in price. That doesn't hurt me after it's all sold, or I've supplied somebody that's making them, or what have you. That's kind of a them problem and not a me problem. Another way to make a lot of gold that people tend to forget about because it's so far removed are some of the old raids, like we alluded to a little while ago. And it's even easier than it ever was before. It used to be before that doing these raids, like during Warlords, you could do these raids, some of them, but you had to have kind of decent gear. Now it's a complete joke. You can go to Firelands and just completely wipe out Firelands, and if you've got a number of tunes that are level 110 or even 100 or what have you.
As long as you don't fall in the lava.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah. Now some of whenever you're doing raids, even if they're old raids, you do need to keep in mind that sometimes there are game mechanics that no matter how well geared or what level you are, it can screw you up if you just do a dumb thing.
And this is where the notes come in. If you know that you can make X amount of gold on one dungeon, but you've got mechanics that are going to take up 10 minutes of that dungeon or raid, and you have another one that you can make a little less, but there aren't the mechanics that are going to take that much time, maybe that's the one that's a little better to do.
Right. Well, a good example of old content that's still going to pay off are content that allows you to make larger bags, for instance. And so you've got the Ember Silk bags and the Hexweave bags are still money makers.
Right.
And people just completely forget about them. And, Hexweave is going to be gated by time still because of the way you have to get the materials in the Garrison and everything you have to do with it. You're going to be gated on a per tune basis as far as doing that. Ember Silk, actually, if you have a tailor that you can take through and you can go through, and there's a raid that you can go into and just slaughter just the opening room, and because you're not killing any of the bosses, you just go out and you can reset it, and you can do it 10 times per hour.
It's Bastion of Twilight.
And it's Bastion of Twilight, correct. So now, it used to be
as long as you don't remember your feather, or what? It's not feather fall, it's slow fall.
Yeah, it's up on a high platform, and we talked about that, doing it on a PvP realm and coming outside of the dungeon to reset and getting attacked immediately, and then trying to back up through the portal and falling off the edge and forgetting that you're a mage, that you can and that you have slow fall. But yeah. So this particular dungeon, I had it down to where I could do the entire thing and loot and everything, and each run took me about, I want to say it was about a minute and a half per run.
Yeah, it's real quick.
It's really fast. Now takes a little longer to loot now since they nerfed the old boomerang for
the Looterang, yeah.
for the Looterang. They nerfed that, which made no sense. But anyway, so all I do on that now is I just make sure that I keep all of the mobs when I kill them clustered closer together, and then it's not really an issue. It slows you down a little bit, but not that much on this particular thing. But you also have the potions of treasure finding that you keep active for that, and those are good for an hour. But the nice thing is you can have a character that you bring them through, you run 10 runs, camp them out so that you save your timer, come back after the hour is up, go through, do another 10 times, and you can do that 3 times. I would usually get, I could do about 32 runs in an hour, I think it was. But I would only do 30 because the last 2 I would have to actually camp out and wait for the hour to pass just to do like 2 more runs. So it wasn't really worth it. So I would do 3 sets of 10 with a character, and the amount of Ember Silk that you would get in there is just tremendous. And you can make these Ember Silk bags out of it. You would also get other things that would drop that would you in the treasure chest that would allow you to make you could make true gold out of it, which is used for amount. And
Pile of sands, yeah.
Yeah. So basically you were getting a lot out of these runs, and it was so mindless to go in and do it. You just go in, run through, you do your 10 runs before you spent 20 minutes. You've done your if you're going 2 minutes per run, which anybody can do it in 2 minutes. A little bit of practice, anybody can do 2 minutes, and then you camp out. You've done your 20 minutes, and now you got 40 minutes to do something else. And so you log that character out, log into another character, go do something else with another character, come back at your leisure, come back 6 hours later if you want to. It doesn't matter. And the only thing that I do recommend if you're going to do that is the character that you're doing it on. It's nice if they have 2 things. One, a way to sell while you're up there, so that when you run out, if your inventory is full, you want to be able to have a mammoth mount or something like that you can bring up and you can sell all of your stuff. But another thing that I would do is I would lay down my guild bank in there, and that character would be in have its own guild bank, and so with a bunch of tabs, and so I could offload anything that wasn't bind on pickup into the guild bank to temporarily hold it until there was a time when I didn't have a timer running. I don't want to run out my potion, right? And so then after it was all said and done, I could organize everything and go through all of it. But if I remember right, it was about I want to say every potion, 30 runs got me about a little over 3,000 silks, I think it was. I mean, you got a lot of silks.
Right.
You got a lot of Ember Silk out of it. That would really add up to a lot of gold, because a lot of people didn't want to pay what the Hexweave bags were going for, and so Ember Silk went up in price, and so it was kind of nice.
And I still use it to make a decent amount of gold. The Ember Silk bags right now on at least on Dalaran, they're going for about $3.89. It's not a huge amount, but with the number that you can sell, the amount of bags you can sell from the silk you can get,
right?
You can make a tremendous amount of gold out of that in a very short period of time if you've got Taylor. And
I have never had a problem moving them all. That's the beauty of it, is because there aren't very many people doing it. You move them quick, and so it's just like I've never had a problem moving Hexweave bags. And
Hexweave is still at $2,000 or so.
Yeah, and I moved a ton of Hexweave, and if your Garrison, don't forget about your Garrison. I mean, your Garrison is a moneymaker. It's still a moneymaker out there.
And I've heard people say the Garrison isn't worth it, blah, 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 don't worry about the Garrison anymore. I still make a ton of gold with my Garrison.
Yeah. No, and if you were around during Warlords and if you were around for the whole time, or at least a significant amount of time in Warlords and you were making gold at that time, I bet you have a few garrisons that you set up, that are already there. And so if those garrisons are already there and you've got tailors that can make hex weave, some of the different ways that you can make gold, like I said, tailors are a big one for that. You can pop in and take advantage of that. Most of your professions had nice ways to make gold during Warlords. It was a nice expansion for making gold with professions. So, if you're ever running out of ways to make gold and the current content just isn't cutting it, that's something to think about. I mean, if you've got a bunch of tailors, how many hexweave bags can you make? I can make a ton. I can make a ton of them. And that really adds up, and you can tell by the price that not very many people are doing it right now. And not to belabor the point, but be where everybody else isn't.
I think we're getting ready for Vegas now.
Yeah.
If anyone's in the area, give us a yell on Twitter next week.
Yeah, we will be in Vegas and hitting the bars, having a good time, trying not to piss our wives off too much. And if we do, oh well. They've been married to us for a long time, so they've learned to put up with a lot.
Yeah, the next morning I get to wake up and look at her and go, what? What did I do?
Yeah.
Did I do it again last night? Oh, man. It won't happen again till next time.
Right. Well, I think that's going to about wrap up this week's episode. I'd like to thank Schaefer Bates for his awesome work as the Goblin voice at the beginning of each show. Also, Kevin McLeod at Incompetech.com for our theme music, Hot Rock, licensed under Creative Commons.
And if you'd like to get a hold of us, you can contact us at Mac, that's MAC, at GoblinGoldcast.com, or Dex, that's DEX, at GoblinGoldcast.com. If you can't reach us on a regular email, you can get a hold of us on an alternate, that's MacGoblinGoldcast at gmail.com. You can contact us on Twitter at GoblinGoldcast, or you can visit us on Facebook.
And don't forget to visit the swag store at cafepress.com/GoblinGoldcast. And you can leave us a voicemail on our website, GoblinGoldcast.com. And please subscribe to us on iTunes or Stitcher if you listen to us there.
And we'll see you the week after next.
Now go make some gold.
It says here we should work in teams. Who wants to be my spotter?
I don't think you should be doing too much gambling tonight, Alan.
Gambling? Who said anything about gambling? It's not gambling when you know you're going to win. Counting cards is a foolproof system.
It's also illegal.
It's not illegal. It's frowned upon, like masturbating on an airplane.
I'm pretty sure that's illegal, too.
Yeah, maybe after 9/11, where everybody got so sensitive. Thanks a lot, Bin Laden.
Either way, you gotta be super smart to count cards, buddy, okay?
Oh, really?
It's not easy.
Okay, well, maybe we should tell that to Rain Man, because he practically bankrupted a casino, and he was a retard.
What?
He was a retard.